Pisco.
Hey everybody, you guys know what day and what time it is, so you know who we are, where you are. It is the best. Everybody, this is X's for Show, your favorite weekly media response show, and it's a Sunday night, so everybody getting queenie. It's going to be a real fun time. As for me, you can check me out, NICO Action at NICO ACTION.
Hi, I'm in this square. My name is Jonah. You can find me places at Peak Jonah.
You know, it's funny. This is the only way I know what day and time it is. And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Accidental.
That makes me Tori. You can find me at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I.
And as always, I'm your producer, KEVO. You can find me in KEVO Really. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we know what you'd like us to cover in the future. But we got some fun stuff to cover today. We have Monopulence, and also, I guess, a finale and a crowning happened this week, too.
Yeah, so I have a lot of feelings.
First off, I'm Trey jealous that I got all the workroom backgrounds, but Kevo kept the Monopoly one for himself.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
is, right. Yes, I did.
King,
how
king
dare
energy
you?
right there.
Well, I mean, who can blame him when it looks that good and the work is that nice?
And he owns everything.
And I like my
everything.
my workroom background. I'm very pleased.
Well, so I want to start with the first thing that has my mind going is when a season hits that moment where it's ending during another season rolling. I am immediately like, oh dip. I feel kind of like Canada lost all steam because the US started.
Right.
But more than that, like I feel like the girls in Canada kind of have so little left to offer by the time you get here that the girls in the US, they're whole new weird blank slates to get to know. Joella, don't forget the Ella.
Or the brush.
It is a multifold thing. This was not lucky because Canada played its hand immediately in the first episode when they were like, we just clearly like the Virgo Queen better than everybody else. And then they were like, but the competition could be Michaela, but literally nobody else. We're just kind of here waiting to see how the Michaela versus Virgo Queen. And that's sometimes I don't know. I've really been noticing how there's sort of a Kenneth Parcell, pure of heart, naivety, but like also ancient wisdom to Canada, where like just the way they present and edit the show is so much less cynical than the US, but almost to the point that's like the US is so cynical it's a problem, the Canada is so not it's a problem. And that got us here where, yeah, I mean, by this episode, we all knew exactly where the only way they could have shocked us is to not go here, to not do exactly what we did.
Is this what season 15 felt like with Sasha and Anitra?
So weirdly, no. And that's, that's part of why, well, to me, it didn't, I guess. I mean, I do think everybody thought Sasha was going to win.
Right.
And felt like it was her show. Nico, are you moving your head on purpose? Because it looks really great. Okay, great. I'm sold. It felt pretty clear that Sasha was like really the front runner, but there was and again, I think this is part of the US cynicism, especially when it comes to production and editing. They knew they had gold, and they produced, wrote, directed, edited the shows around the joy of watching Sasha be the guaranteed winner. And they've done that all the way kind of back to the Biancas of the world, where it's like you can see they're not struggling. There's not a ton of suspense, but there's an energy to watching this person like not really defy the odds. And for Canada, I don't feel like they're able to produce a show like that when they have a sort of guaranteed winner. But then, yeah, on top of that, the Drag Race format also does sort of reward it's comic book number ones. It really rewards everybody getting into the full cast of 10 to 14 and, you know, having early judgments on who's who, watching the early fights, seeing a lot of chaos and energy. And when you're down to the final four, a lot of times it's a little bit like, okay, let's go. I kind of want
to bounce us back to the US before we talk too much about Canada.
Yeah,
totally. I want to start on the US. And so so we're at this point with the US season where like the girls are all so fresh, they're all so new.
No one's gone home.
They can't help but steal the show. And like, you know, I feel so bad because like other seasons, you're great out there, but like it's hard to beat when this season can bring up so many girls. Like how much drag royalty family there is in this season is just still crazy. And the fact that the girls are like kind of like family picnicking.
Well, it also helps this season has the Slasian diva of LA, who truly is the gift that keeps on giving. I have converted myself to fully be on the Joella hype train. She truly is. I think she's the best TV we've had in years. Her in Untucked was the funniest thing in the entire world. And the fact that the editors kept in everybody's reactions to everything, truly, she is the blessing. She's the mother we needed. She's a return to form of very old school Drag Race where the look was looking and you have the confidence that you were placed by Rue there herself, just like Hormona Lisa. And it truly is the most spectacular thing to watch. I love her.
Actually, I wanna see if you can do me a favor, Jonah. You were reading to me something you'd read in a good book, and I was hoping you could maybe cite the verse for me. You were sharing something about Hormona.
Okay, yes. There's this is a good memo for people. Things you hear secondhand might not always encapsulate the truth because it's not the direct conversation you're hearing. And it's really easy to spread misinformation.
She's such a slut. Misinformation,
she
big
around,
slut.
Spreads around a lot.
Super spready.
Yeah, if you see her, get tested. So at a viewing party, Susie Toot talked about her conversation with Hormona Lisa, and Susie clarified the actual truth of it is Hormona is a religious person, but doesn't bring it up randomly and is happy to engage with conversation if you are more interested. However, they did not go back on the allegations that Hormona hugged Katy Perry and said the evil is with this one. Which truly, she knew something because 143 flopped, so she knew. She knew.
And I don't think 142 is doing 143 too. I can't. She's, oh my god, this is like the way I'm still confused how we go from 143 to 1432. It's sort of like we go from Wicked to Wicked 4. But I
so she's a religious trans girl. Are she like Baptist?
I don't know, can't confirm.
Or Methodist? Probably Baptist or Methodist.
Well, I think they just baptize.
Okay.
No highs. And it's more. It also just specifically highlights that the way that the original post was edited was that it made it seem like Hormona was this crazy religious person constantly spewing out Bible verses at people when that was not the truth and not the actual part of the situation. She's also from Tennessee. She is from the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
I
mean, we've had plenty of religious queens. I always find it very off-putting, but I love them very much.
Right, like one could say that Latrice's exuberance.
Yeah, that was my
like
first exposures to Drag Race, and I found it horribly off-putting. But of course, I love Latrice, and eventually, I learned to get used to it. And that's a big if you're a northeastern atheist gay that sort of has spent a lot of time recovering from problems with religion, I think understanding that people that are not from this region and who deal with their religious trauma in their own ways, including re-engaging with religion in their own ways. That should be for them, and that should be great. And like you can be on. I feel comfortable being honest in the fact that I find it off-putting, but I also want to be really clear about the fact that like if I'm a good fan and a good supporter of these people, that's a me thing that I find it off-putting, and not like I wish they'd change or I wish they'd cut it out of the show.
Yeah, I'll chalk it up to what I said to my sophomore roommate when she told me that she was praying for me to see the light.
Oh no!
That it is all well and good for her to pray, but she's got to keep it locked up in here.
Yeah.
Because if I hear it again,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a problem.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think part of the conversation that's really interesting is, and I'm just kind of putting it out there, the show isn't just about the girls and their nightlife performances. This show is about the girls and their nightlife performances, which means the girls. And this was something I was talking about with Jojo and Kevo when we were watching on Friday, when the girls got the, let's just kind of go with it, SD6 style dossier, saying who up in this piece is a big old bitch. I was really interested to see how much of it really did feel like manipulative gameplay, and how if you put a girl higher because you want to see her stay longer because she's your friend, like we are verging a little bit more into Big Brother than talent show territory, and that is interesting because now they're starting to clearly try to cast girls who are very good but make great TV. We're a little bit less concerned with the best girls now, and that's just interesting. Not that any of these girls is less than the best, but yeah, you know, the gameplay being so strategic, well, then that's not a talent competition. Then you're not hoping to win based on talent, and that's fine, but that's also the case.
I mean, this was kind of to me, a little bit of a futile thing, because like the biggest thing that you had was Arietti and Lana putting each other in the top because they said they would, because they love each other, that they fully admitted to. And, you know, specifically Lana was talking about how she gave it to Arietti because she knew other people were putting Arietti low and she didn't want her to go home. But for the most part, everybody kind of voted along who they thought was the best. There were a couple other minor instances, and it really just felt like another moment where it was like, okay, now get upset, now like talk about it. And it was just like, I don't know, is this that big a deal? And like Sam being so offended that who in particular put
Miss Butthole.
Yeah. I was just like saying this one person, and like honestly, was it that good? I don't know. This to me was just like, okay, I get that we have to do production and produce stories, but like I could have maybe skipped this story. Because I don't know, I thought most of their votes were like pretty on point. Like, yeah, we did have Lana and Arietti, but otherwise it was pretty okay.
I'm also surprised that they did it this early, if anything, because now you are going to be very aware if they continue with this, that your votes can be up for being revealed. Like, I don't think we've seen that previously, or at least if we have, I definitely don't remember seeing it this early. So I'm very surprised it is the first vote right out. And
they did show the last year's, but you're right, it was later.
So yeah, so when they showed it last year's, because I went back because I have everything in the past year of coverage that I've talked about with Jonah, and I basically said, oh, they're only going to show like how it shook out, not how they voted. So they showed the list of like 1 through 14, this is how you did, and this, but without saying who voted for whom. And so I do think this is an interesting choice, because I do think that it means to anyone who watches the show, Tamar, that this could possibly happen, that you will be called out for it, which I think may keep it from being a fully Big Brother thing, like you're worried about, NICO, where it becomes about friendship and not talent. That the fact that you are going to have to defend yourself is going to help keep it probably on the mostly up and up. I agree. Like, at the end of the day, one person voting you number one isn't really going to shift you for anything outside of getting in the bottom. And so if you're like, yeah, she's my friend, I'm going to do that. I'm surprised Jules got to sneak in like under the radar, because we know that she voted Sam higher than usual.
seems very short, and I feel like if she puts some kind of hat down, the hair takes a couple of inches off. I feel like she could just kind of limbo her shit in anytime she needs.
Yeah, and she's got the drop crotch to be able to do that. So I think I kind of like that we're gonna see these receipts. I hope they keep with it because I think it'll keep the girls honest. Yeah.
Last season they only did it twice though, right? It was the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Last season they just did it at the first 2 episodes.
They didn't do it a second time?
No, it was just for each talent show. They each rated their own talent shows.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see. I hope they don't do it again. I think this is a weird mechanic.
I don't mind it because it adds 2 things. You can play strategic and you can form your alliance, but know that alliance will be exposed. And I think that adds an element of, like Corey said, do I want to be honest about how I actually felt, or am I going to rate my friend higher because I want them to be safe? And that's fine. Because at the end of the day, you got to live with what your votes are, which I think everybody there kind of felt fine with. They didn't care. It also doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because also, like, what's an alliance gonna get you after this point? Outside of maybe a decent team in a group challenge. Like, the judges are in it from now on.
Yes.
And I even want to throw it all the way back to Nico's point of feeling concerned about how this affects the gameplay and whether or not it still holds up the integrity of the game as we know it. But, we did hear girls specifically agog hearing that others had alliances or had ulterior motives rather than voting based on talent. So, while there is some concern, there's always chaos. So you're always going to have people still trying to vote within the spirit of what the challenge actually is, which is something that will come up a lot this episode.
Well, and the challenge this episode. So, like, those of you who don't understand, but I really enjoy being like the world's biggest, best Monopoly terrorist. I love playing long.
How can you be when I am?
So my favorite thing is like literally building up such intense like property that like I keep you all in the game by being like, no, listen, what's going to happen is I'm not going to have to pay the next 15 times I land on your spaces. And that's how we're going to keep this game going, my friend. Don't you worry. I'm going to be forgiving.
I had Buffyopoly.
I
had it.
The his or a real one?
Who made this?
You.
Oh no, that's just a Buffy.
Oh,
There's no real one. There's just a Buffy board game. But I made a Monopoly.
I had the Buffy
who's
board
the biggest
game.
Monopoly person?
That's
Who's
fair.
the biggest Monopoly person? I dissected it.
Well, so I am. I only went bald to be Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
the really big thing here for me, when it comes to Monopoly, is it's sacred. We're right from near Atlantic City, which please remember that Marvin Gardens is the one location outside. The one location. This is what it's like having a me. Is the one location outside of AC proper. KEVO and I wrote papers and had to read a paper all about it. AC is a long-standing tradition in this state. So Monopoly, real important, good shit. It's all named after AC properties and locations.
Depending on who you believe, it's from someone who was here, someone who wasn't, or it was a lady. I'm shocked Crystal Envy didn't get a note of like, oh, the girl from New Jersey.
From Asbury Park. You're from 25 minutes away. You just do some fucking freestyle driving down the turnpike, and then you get off at the Atlantic City Expressway. It's not that. It's like, it's right there.
It's one of those things that's so easy to get right. So when people don't, it's just a little, I get it. It's why I'm so happy that I was surrounded by a desert in Wicked. You could have gotten something like that wrong, but you didn't. And
I love this as a return to form. We haven't had the first main challenge be a design challenge since season 11. And for decent reason, they kind of stopped doing that because there was complaints about, well, you're going to cast people who are non-sewers, and that always being the first challenge eliminates a lot of options for people who are talented in other areas. So oftentimes the first, I say main challenge being combined groups, tends to be some sort of performance acting style challenge, or at least it had been from 12 to 16. But here it was a design challenge, and I think it's good and I think it's important because truly there is virtually zero rigging that can happen for a design challenge like this. Everybody's given fabric. They were all given actual fabric. You all have the same, roughly the same amount of materials. It just depends on how many people you're sharing the color with, which I thought that was pretty genius to assign colors based off of spaces.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I just want to say to viewer slash follower on Blue Sky who's popping in, Crystal is your MVP. I love that. That's so fucking cute. Like MVP, but envy. Love that. She's a good Jersey girl, so feeling the big time pork roll love here for her as well.
We also got, as true with every season of Drag Race as there ever will be as we continue on with the world, as this goes into season 73, there will be people who do not know how to sew, and I will defend specifically. You don't need to know how to sew if you specifically want to get on Drag Race. It helps. You just need to know how to put an outfit together. Because there are people who have gone on Drag Race who don't know how to sew, who can make good garments. Granted, that was way back in like 5 and 6, and our standards have upped. But I think we should temper standards a little.
So
honestly, like
I
Anya
thought-
Nerve would have crushed with that dress. Just a few
I thought she should have won.
Well, I thought she should have won, but also I loved what she said, which is she knew how to work a machine. She just didn't. I mean, like, and that's just saying I have considered it, because really we have had a lot of girls be like, no, I literally haven't even thought about it. I knew I was coming here, didn't make a single lick of effort to figure out what I might do should you ask me to construct a garment on this show that has been asking people to construct garments.
Kevo, can you go back real quick 1 second?
Sure, where? Which one?
That does not look like a Monopoly person. He looks like a sexy Abe Lincoln, and it's not
Abe Lincoln.
Yes, so it's although
I
evidently
actually
one of my
just
favorite.
thought it was Abe Lincoln and kept rolling.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is evidently all of the accounts of Abe Lincoln speaking in public are he has a shrill, screechy, scratchy, horrible feminine voice, and he was horrible to listen to.
That's plausible.
As a
So yeah, I did like that there was acknowledgement again this season of like you should have something planned. I totally agree. I go pretty hard on the like you should know how to sew, but I am totally willing to take that. If a queen is like, I'm not really a great sewer, but I know how to respond to the request. That's all I need to hear. If I hear that, whatever happens next, I'm ready to support you. If you really show up to this show in its 17th season with anything other than I at least knew that this might come up and I have a plan, then I want to smack you across the face. And I do appreciate when that gets called out a little bit, just because, come on. I mean,
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, like I too have not touched a sewing machine since 7th grade home ec class when we made a pillow, but I know what this jacket is supposed to look like, how this dress is supposed to lay, what this is all supposed to do. I can see the seams of how it got to there, and I can figure it out.
It feels like showing up to a triathlon and being like, oh, I knew I was supposed to run, but I prepared for it in no way, and I hate running. And you expect me to make it through this by doing the running too? I think you should acquiesce to my needs of not wanting to run as part of this.
Well, and like I really feel like it always boggles my mind, because something I hear a lot is, well, she knew she was going to have to do a 2-step, so she should have learned. And I hear she knew she was going to have to sing a little bit, so she should have learned. And then I hear we should let girls get away with bad singing, and we should forgive girls for mediocre to bad dancing. But like, I don't know. This is just like one of the necessary skills. It really is, like Kevo said, it's like a triathlon. Don't tell me that you're here to swim, hike, and climb, and then tell me that when it comes to climbing, you thought that you could do a little more swimming and maybe a little more hiking, but like you really weren't thinking about climbing. You were thinking about looking cute in your new little dress.
If we're supposed to find it funny, then
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Sure.
There was a dude on my social media a while ago who was like a really like just absolutely jacked fitness influencer who was friends with another very accomplished fitness influencer, and the second guy was a marathon runner, and the first guy was a lot more overall athletic, and so went to his friend and was like, I like this marathon that you've been training for, I can just get up one day and run it. Like I'm just gonna run it because I'm in better shape than you are, and like like look at this, I can just do it. And of course he got to like mile 8 and almost died because you can't just do that. You can't, if you are faced with a marathon, you better have a plan. So this was, I'm glad they brought it back. I'm glad there was a little bit of the language of like, do you know what you're doing? I'm glad that Rue called Anya out, but I'm glad. I love a queen who is not worried when Rue calls them out. My favorite thing in the world was Gigi Gorgeous. I hear your concern, but I do not share your concern, and then wins the fucking challenge because it was really good and she knew what she was doing. Rue is not always right. I don't love that thing of like, well, Rue said it, so I should probably do it. You should also probably have a gut and instincts, and I have terrible gut and terrible instincts, and kind of a beer gut right now, so I got to figure that out too. But I appreciate how it can be scary when the boss says something, but I really appreciate it so much. Great image capture. When
RuPaul doing the Carlton, getting them, dropping a little grenade and going, have fun with this, girls, and then doing the Carlton on them was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
So
I am glad for all of it. This was a good return to a Drag Race standard that I think really makes you think about what we're all doing here and who we love and why we love them.
I want to say that one of the things that I noticed right away was I clocked the lack of a mini challenge, which, as Jonah reminds me, is a thing from time to time.
Yeah,
but
it's not
the
uncommon.
thing about losing a mini challenge for me is this is so early on. It's because there's so many girls at this point that are competing for the amount of space. Like, you have to kind of pick and choose where to give the time. And what's so funny is the time was not given to Lucky Stars. The time was given about Lucky Stars. The time was not given to Hormona Lisa. The time was given about Hormona Lisa. And something that I think we can sort of pattern about the trajectory of Drag Race, for me at least, is one of the things that 15 got the best was it was like half the girls doing their own press and half of the girls' nemesises, the other girls, doing their press. And it was perfect because for every time Lucy was Lucy, she also had a Lux. And then season 16 was a lot of girls doing their own press. And that was not quite the same fulfilling experience. But this season, we are back to other people doing these girls' press for them, which is why we all have a negative opinion of Hormona, which is why we all had a tragic opinion of Lucky. I mean, the actual tragedy on this stage is the color composition of everything happening on this stage.
Wait, we can get into this. Before we really dive into looks, can we talk about the funniest, most beautiful moment of this episode being drag queens for two uninterrupted 2.5 minutes arguing over trim?
Oh my god,
talking crap about someone 2 seats away from you as if they're not going to hear it, and then get into a spat with them so much that other girls were.
Yeah, it was turning into like enjoy the theater, Mr. Lincoln. Like it was getting seriously. I hope you die. It was turning over trim.
She needed it.
Something that we talked about was, the idea of what they were doing was being, gossipy Latinas and talking amongst themselves in the corner. Which is, but like that is usually like you're usually speaking in Spanish and quietly. You're not speaking in English the same language
not the
as
girls
the
I know
person you're
who do
talking about, and at full volume. I think that's where you're not. She's most not quite.
I'm also team both of them because if I was Jules, I'd probably be pissed. But I'm also on team Anya. I'm just taking it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. Like Anya probably shouldn't have taken it without asking, but I would have done it too. And Jules probably should have watched her own shit a little closer.
The big thing that came up for me was this is potentially like a rule violation sabotage. except for somebody violated the rules this episode, got called out, and had to do it. So
I want to come back to that.
Yeah,
I have bigger thoughts on that.
And a lot of people evidently violated the rules, and that did not get discussed on air.
Anya is right now my absolute front runner. I love her. I love her attitude. I think she's really awesome.
Her.
I think she's so cool. I had this moment where I was like, this might actually be, if somebody had something and they fully were going to use it, they called it was on their station, you took it from them. Is that a rule violation? And I thought it might come up because it came up for Hormona. And the fact that it didn't leads me to believe that in some capacity, while we got this edited in to see the Cheeseman, to see the fight, if it had actually been a real, like what Jules described happened to me sounds like if I were on the show, I would go to a producer and be like, you told us to take the stuff that we needed and to save it. I had my stuff and I set it aside, and this contestant came and took my stuff. And if I lose, that is because they literally stole my items. And the fact that didn't happen leads me to believe that Anya didn't do anything wrong, essentially.
I think it was a big gray area because they were all given a station of things to specifically you had to share it.
Right.
And there's, I guess, a unspoken rule of if you say, I'm going to use this, nobody else take it, you're all supposed to follow it. But I do think the actual broader rule is, no, everything is fair game. If it is specifically on the table, it is meant to be shared with whoever you specifically need to share it. It's not like, wasn't one of those design challenges like season 14, open up the boxes is whenever you open up the box, that's specifically yours and nobody's supposed to be taking that. Throwback to that one, season 17 of Project Runway where people were taking stuff out of Esther's pile.
Oh my god.
Hester Sunshine's pile because it was whatever.
Also, can I just say it looks like Lydia Butthole Collins right here is trying to fashion herself her very own chocobo wings. What is this? A limited edition Steam Deck?
That thing is a monstrosity.
Yeah, I think this sort of dovetails a little bit into my feelings on the Hormona Lisa Rhinestone situation, because I firmly stand by Lexi Love's ability to be like, hey, that ain't it. Don't. But I also very firmly believe that if it was actually against the rules, it should have never had to have gotten to the point of Lexi saying something, because someone should have stepped in and said, hey, so don't do that. Which makes me believe that producers don't care unless you decide you're going to make a stink in front of cameras.
Well, yes, I do believe that. However,
this one's weird.
So I believe, if I understand what the people have talked about the story, and this people from actually there, both Hormona and Susie both use rhinestones from home, potentially doing it at the hotel room. That's not uncommon for them to take stuff to the hotel room to continue working on, because someone did mention it. They should not have left it in. Someone did say they had like 6 hours to work on them, which is not a lot of time to get a full look at, especially for Drag Race. It's barely enough time when they give it to them on Project Runway. So them taking stuff home to work on at home is not uncommon. That's supposedly where it happened. Lexi went to Hormona and Susie first. Hormona was not going to, and said, hey, I think this is against the rules. You should be careful about doing that. And Hormona was like, no, I'm still going to do it. And then Lexi brought production in. I do not know how Lexi brought production in, so I will not comment on.
Do you think she used her roller skates to get there quickly?
She might have. She might have been like at Sonic. She's working.
Hey guys, leave a tip.
How big can this girl go?
How fast? Yeah, gotta go fast. But the reason why it wasn't mentioned about Susie is because Susie just, I guess, didn't talk about it, or it didn't fit the narrative of the episode that they were trying to fit. I do not think either Susie or Hormona were doing it out of malice to like get an advantage.
No, definitely not.
But I do understand the rule, specifically because I believe both Crystal and /or Sam Star saying, I brought beautiful jewels with me, but I can't use them. And part of that is even what we talked about last week, fairness of, well, if somebody has the money to buy a bunch of beautiful, expensive jewels that they want to use to embellish things, in a design challenge where things are being provided for them, that is an unfair advantage. Yes. And I think that they want, for the most part, in a show as heavily produced as Drag Race, to be as even as possible in certain case scenarios.
This also, it was so funny. Like it really, I thought when the topic got introduced and for the first 30 seconds there, I was like, oh, this is going to be a thing. And Ramona does look pissed and this is not good.
It was very
And then
funny.
she was like, yeah, I was pissed. I was angry. This sucks. And then she dealt with it, that made a perfectly great garment, was safe. And then in Untucked was like, yeah, I was mad. I still love you, Lexi. Lexi loves her. This is like, you see this across Drag Race franchises, especially lately. I love this. The trans girls really don't have a lot of beef with each other, are often really supportive of each other, can have these moments where they're like, yeah, I'm annoyed, but you are still my sister. You're my friend. And they tend to, I like to see people kind of rise above. The only reason this is all weird to me was because this felt like it actually could have been the juicier fight of the episode. And I was like, oh, we're getting into it right now. And then it was kind of nothing. It's kind of just like a reminder that the show does have rules. And then that's why I'm like, and then we got this fight between Anya and Jules where I'm like, okay, well then I don't think Anya broke any rules. And so I'm not upset with her, because if they specifically edited this episode to introduce rule violations, I feel like it would have come up that Anya violated a rule if that's what happened. And that didn't. So I was like, great, I can continue to have her be my favorite and my top and just love her. And then she was there and I loved her energy and Untucked, just being like, yep, I psyched everybody out and I pissed them all off because Rue loved it. And she's absolutely right. Her dress might have just been a tube dress, might have not been as, well, like skill executed and crafted as Sam's and as other people's who have the technical skill to produce an amazing garment, but she did everything that she needed to sell it to the judges and to be told this looks opulent. And I felt like it did too. It could have been hot glued together, but she gave the fantasy for that 5 minutes. I was like, this is an opulent woman. This is Mrs. Monopoly. This is all happening. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I thought she looked like a denizen of the Emerald City, whereas I thought that Sam Star looked like she fell off the Fringe truck. I would not have given this to Sam.
I just thought she
Sam
looked like
did a
she was
good
going to
job.
Kentucky Derby. It was cute. Like, it was fine. It was cute, but like,
That face though.
I
wasn't shocked she didn't win.
I thought she did a really good job making the garment, but I thought that it was not a winning garment.
Yeah.
I think this is beautiful. I love the fan. I love the hat. I am personally not a fan of that hair, but that is me. That does not take away from everything that how the way she styled it. I really understand the win. I also would have been happy if Anya won. Personally, I really responded to Arietti's look.
Yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought her hair, her makeup, I thought everything about everything looked like absolute perfection for tonight for her.
Yeah, this was a tight top.
And you know what, Tori? I think that's a beautiful point. We have differing opinions here. I think it was a really close top three, a correct top three.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And really just showcases the skill level of these people to not only design a garment, but to sell it on the runway. That is the other half of it. You can be wearing something beautiful, but if you're just frumping around on it, it doesn't look good. Mm-hmm. So props to Anya for figuring out what would get her in the top, even potentially win.
Well, and I need to update. So I earlier read a message from a fan who's watching. Hey again, Matt. Sorry, I need to clarify something. I didn't like when she came for Anya after the design challenge. Anya did a fantastic job. Other than that, love Crystal. Jersey Girls Unite. And Jersey Girls Unite. Jersey boy right here. That's the rule.
It did feel a little... I understand that she wanted to be a little bit more direct because she did say it when Anya wasn't there and she was just like, I know I'm going to tell it to your face. Like, this is what I said. I can get her frustrations, but it did feel I sometimes also think, ooh, let's leave some stuff in the chamber.
I absolutely get her frustration, especially if you are like really skilled at a thing that you worked really hard at and you make something really complicated and somebody else, this is like, I oftentimes will, I cook all the time and I oftentimes will execute a dish or bake something that has taken a long time to learn and to prepare and that took a lot of planning and that took a lot of skill and practice to make. And then somebody else just like makes Toll House cookies and that's the dessert that everybody lives for. That's fine. Like, that's my thing to be upset about. They should be super proud of their Toll House cookies. And if everybody loved them and responded to them, there was a better party because they brought them. And that, that's what we had. And I love that Anya, for everything else, was just like, good, I've got them a little bit shook, I'm all set. I thought Crystal looked really beautiful, and I just honestly, I just patted myself on the back because I really feel that what I noticed yesterday or last week is so true. Her body is a beautiful dude body, but when not styled right, when not in a garment, it doesn't look feminine. And she looked like a woman. This was
Womana.
Pure body. I mean, and this was the fact that it cut, she proportioned and covered the typically masculine parts of herself in a way that, for me, it was so noticeable last week, and this week I was like, no, this is a dainty flower. And I thought she looked really gorgeous. I did not think it was better than Anya. I mean, she just didn't sell it like Anya did. Anya just had a really good night. But I think it was cool that she was honest and she wasn't trying to pick a fight. She said, I said it in Untucked, or I said it before you were here, so I feel like I don't want to talk behind your back. I think that's totally reasonable, as opposed to absolutely unhinged, insane Joella going up to Lucky Stars.
Oh, that moment was pure perfection.
That was dark.
It did exactly what she wanted it to do.
That was dark.
Joella standing up there with her Scarlet Witch tattoo comes out in a literal Polaris costume.
Yeah.
She
she did get green.
And it's one of the things where look, we all have the inspirations that we perla ourselves to, and we draw from those inspirations. It was great to see Very Mary Kate trending recently. Good job, Elaine Carroll. So I really think the problem with this look for me is it's horrible, but the other part is sometimes you write a really good paper on an author and you put it a lot in historical times, you really set the context, and so then you go to your history class and you just tweak your paper to be history. You play down the author and you play up the era. This was just I like bodysuits, I like capes, that's opulent. You wouldn't just wear a cape to the supermarket, so that must be opulent. And here's when I'll think that you are the Slasian queen of LA, my dear. When you join John Mayer and Dave Matthews in their first ever duet set for the LA wildfire benefit, if you dance for them, I will agree. Because right now, my love, my favorite thing about you is your shady coffee talk. And I'm here for it. But that's even what I mean. She's somebody we would value the interviews on Traders more than her gameplay. And that is unfortunately how I feel about her right now, knowing she's more talented than me at drag, knowing she is beautiful, accomplished, incredible. She is beautiful.
And a beautiful activist. I've seen a couple of her things in marches, in drag.
And,
queen for the people. Bob's gig.
Truly, and she just happens to also be coming for Katy Perry. She's outside your house, Katy, run! But so I think the big thing for me here is I don't understand where, because don't get me, I have massive delusion. I am NICO Delulu. It is my secret superpower. But the other thing about being NICO Delulu is I have the charger port that goes right into my neck that reminds me what reality is. I think she just has whatever the Bane Venom equivalent of Delulu juice is. And she just, whenever she's starting to feel low, she just roids out her Delulu.
Her symbiote?
Yeah, she just gets real big. And I just, it's one of those things where even the other drag queens were like, is she for real? Is she for real?
No, beautiful. That's what we need. That's what we need on Drag Race.
You're telling me what we needed was another Valentina, but Joella?
Yes. The fact that Lucky asked her, so how are you feeling? And she holds her hands and says, I'm feeling really confident that I'm going to be staying tonight. Is truly...
I feel really confident that I'm going to be here next week.
Next week, yeah.
Is good. Listen.
It do take nerve.
It do take nerve. She truly is maxing out her nerve stat. She is. And I love it.
I will say the only reason it is rubbing off on me as well as it is, or I should say, putting it in parallel to Corey trotting the same river that her sister Plain Jane plowed into the drag race field. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for Corey right now. It's not a cute look. I love Corey. I think she's very funny. I think, you say 5 billion things in a week and they can edit it down to the 5 they need for the show. So I'm not here to say that, she has done anything wrong, that she's the villain.
She's a chocobo.
She did say something about being the villain. And she knows what she's doing, but like when you have a Joella on the scene who is dark-sided in a way that seems insane, and seems like uniquely just unhinged, when you are so directly being like maybe just kind of mean and maybe just a little bit snarky and snappy, it doesn't end up looking great. I want better for her is what it comes down to.
I actually think this is editing soft rolling her villain role.
I think you're right about it. I think it's going to ramp up. I think it's going to get worse.
It's hiding under the Joella stuff, so she just seems a little forward and a little saucy, and you're like, oh, but I'm interested. Like, it's still fun.
Just feed her some partial greens and she'll be fine.
Right, and then when Joella eventually sachets away at some point, it'll just ramp right up. Yeah. That's probably right about when we'll get Corey King versus Hormona Lisa really showdown. Is probably right after Joella leaves.
The other reason it doesn't look great is because Jane talked a lot of shit and Plain talked a lot of shit and then did super well when
a lot of challenges.
Yeah, especially early on when she was being really nasty. That was when she succeeded, and it was like, okay, well, I'm right. Corey talking the shit that she talked this week and then being bottom 3, I feel again like I just kind of feel bad because I know she's just trying to give Drag Race character. I don't think she's trying to be an unkind person. I think she knows how, and again, it's difficult for Black girls on the show. Like, I think she's really trying to do her best with what they give you, and I don't think she's horrible. I just think she's a little catty. But again, next to Joella and with bottom 3 this week, I feel for her a little bit. I hope the storyline picks up as we whittle down. I do think her look was not great though.
You got something?
Wouldn't have called it bottom 3.
Who did you think would be in the bottom instead?
Okay,
I didn't love Butthole.
I did.
It was beautifully made, and it was saying something, but I don't think it was saying it very loudly.
You know what? I really respect that, but I also think, even funny enough, that's just a little bit of her personality. And even in her Meet the Queens, she seems like a little bit more the reserved, artsy film student, because that's what she is. She's literally the reserved, artsy film student, but she makes her own shit. She kind of beats to her own drum. I don't know if this was technically perfect, but I do love that this is her version of Opulence, and I think that's why Corey was in the bottom. That look isn't bad. It's really not.
It's not opulent though.
But it's not opulent, and I think she just missed that part of the assignment.
Yeah.
That's why she was bottom 3 and not bottom 2.
I would have put Acacia in the bottom, not because I don't love Acacia, but because the fit on it is horrible. The design elements are rough. It is deeply uneven. The ruching goes in weird levels. You don't tear down to your ankles. The pivot at the waist is way too high. The breasts are set too low. The shoulders come too far in.
I liked this dress.
I like the idea of this dress, but from a construction and understanding
I like this better than Lana's.
And that's the other thing I was about to bring up. Like, I want to love Lana, I do, but like, I think it's really cool that Sam does not have Trinity's crass. I would love Trinity a whole lot more if I didn't think that under that wig was some part of a MAGA hat. And so I have a little trouble with when Trinity gets real icky. And not because I'm not somebody who can't do a trailer park girl. Look at me. I love Beth Orton. But like, I have a little bit of trouble with that element that Trinity brings into play. So seeing the polish that Sam has is so stunning and so beautiful. But I really love that you can tell that Sam isn't her mother because she's got that polish, and that Lana isn't her drag mother because she's not.
It's a tough one.
To be fair, it's also unfortunate when your drag mother is Luxor London, who we saw as a very talented seamstress. I loved
Truly.
that zebra print pant that she made is probably one of the best garments we've seen in a long time on Drag Race. And it's hard to fill those shoes. And when you have Sam, who can fill Trinity's shoes, which love the storyline that both Trinity and Sam's first challenge wins were design challenge wins.
Oh, that's so cool.
Both in blue.
Cute.
Also, hey Andrew, we missed you, sexy.
Hi Andrew. I think the bottom third placement, I think there are other people who you maybe could have put there depending on your own personal taste of things you do and don't like. But I ultimately think the bottom two was correct. And it's really unfortunate because I did not want to see Lucky Stars there that early. And truly, I don't think anybody here predicted her to be the pork chop of the season.
Nope. Although, Irene Dubois, so at least she...
I don't think she's the pork chop. I'm sorry. I'm going to stand by this.
Yes.
I really like.
Yeah, I agree.
It's tough. I genuinely think that the pork chop is Hormona.
Yeah,
and Hormona was kept in by a really cool device, but like, she did lose. She did get eliminated, and was kept in by the fact that Michelle is not afraid of getting her hair wet. Which
it is very important to specifically note that as much as we said it would have been great if it was just a nobody goes home and we knew going into it, it was not. She was technically, by the declared statements of judging, the first eliminated, and just happened to pull the right lever and dunk Michelle on the first try.
This was a question that I had asked Jonah as I went through creating my own spreadsheets about, is a person considered a pork chop if someone went home first and got brought back and then the next person is out? Because I'm under the impression the general idea is whoever packs their little bags and writes their little message and never comes back is your pork chop.
I think even if they come back, if they are the first one to get eliminated and to go home, to not be on the show the following week, even if they come
if they get it's chocolate.
Like,
even if they get it's not chocolate.
Naisha Lopez is the pork chop of season 8, but she came back for another 2 episodes. She was literally home when they called her.
Yeah. Because she lived in LA.
I don't think she was in LA at that point.
Really?
In season 8, I don't think she was in LA yet. I think she was.
I mean, we can say the same for Diabetes.
Yes,
Elliot with 2 T's. Orion story.
There.
I think some of it also depends on the mechanisms.
Yeah.
Like like you said, Elliot with 2 T's, I think is closer to the pork chops. I'm not considering that first group that all lost that first lip sync in season 13 pork chops. Even though the whole joke is the pork chop lounge, they're not pork chops. I think it's that definition is dependent. I think first eliminated and pork chop, I think, are actually 2 separate things. I think Hormona Lisa was the actual first eliminated, but I think the pork chop is the first person
to leave.
To leave.
Okay.
Because I do want to agree, Hormona Lisa is technically the first person eliminated.
Yes.
It took 2 episodes to kill that bitch, and she came right the fuck back. What the fuck is that?
It's Jesus territory right there.
That's Jesus territory. 3rd day, look behind the rock.
Maybe she's got a point.
Doing some kind of lesson with it, because like Hormona absolutely deserved to go home that episode. And yes, there was a mechanism by which she didn't. That is what it is. But then she did great this week.
I like that.
Yeah, she was totally safe this week.
She's
which is
very
just to
pretty
say,
goldfish. It was perfect.
Yeah, which is just to say, like, you can go home early and still you might have gone if by some stroke of luck you hadn't gone home, you might have slayed all the rest of the challenge. Like, it doesn't, the first person home isn't the worst person. It is the first person to not match the challenge for any particular number of reasons.
Jonah, who's my girl who's always my example with the scent challenge?
Oh, Ivy Winters.
Ivy.
Maybe Winters went home because that was a weird challenge.
That was a weird
Yeah.
challenge. She had a bit of a ditz moment that
She
Michelle
did.
really did not like. But yeah, I mean, Ivy's so insanely talented, such an incredible designer. Absolutely could have been a top 4 queen, I think, that season. Can we talk about the insane amount of promotion and extra money they're trying to pull in through things like synergy with Monopoly in Las Vegas?
Well, so okay, on that topic,
Please.
this is so fascinating for Monopoly. So, Mattel, which owns Monopoly now, has left, which Hasbro owns everything.
Oh, yeah.
Has hugely stepped back from anything outside of actual toys, to the point of they've laid off their entire film division and are now focusing on where they make their money. I'm not trying to be like a weirdo, but do you guys know where like the company makes 50% of its fucking money? Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go is 50% of that motherfucking company's money, and that company made over $1 billion from Barbie. And like, to understand that there have been over 100 editions of Monopoly Go alone, and to understand that the Monopoly Go mobile game is one of the most significant mobile games on the market, to understand that, and then to put it in terms of what's going on. Well, okay, Andrew, babe, waiting for the Barbie movie too. You're gonna be waiting for a minute, but to understand that this was like, they're going for such big tie-ins that are so generic. You know, I can't help but notice that I said to these boys, I said,
Boys, this is.
Jonah, let's move your mother to Las Vegas.
You did say
And
that.
then he said, that's a great idea. Let's move my mother to Las Vegas. And then we decided, let's visit her. And so then we did. We visited Jonah's mother in Las Vegas. And so we got to do Drag Race Live a few times. And now all of a sudden the show is sponsored by Las Vegas. I can't help but notice that's...
It's not just sponsored by the Flamingo Hotel, which is where Drag Race Live is hosted. It's sponsored by the city of Vegas. And I presume...
Which is very big.
You're jesting? It is huge.
I mean, like, of a dill.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, that too. It's huge in size and dill. Pickled.
Not that big.
I believe every girl who's going to be pulling a lever, it seems, is going to win a trip to Vegas.
Which is very exciting. Or like
Well-
a trip to somewhere. Because Hormona won a trip to somewhere else.
No,
Vegas.
Oh, she did?
Oh yeah, it's been only
shit.
Vegas.
It's full Sarah Bareilles got to take me to Vegas.
Yeah,
Oh.
I also wonder, is this going to be one of those things where, again, is this gimmick going to go away after a little while? Like, if Michelle gets dunked again, is that it? And then is that it? No one else is getting
they
trips,
will.
goodbye.
No.
Does
When
Hormona get
when the
two
lever is
if she
pulled
pulls
for
the
the
lever? Does
when
she
the-
get-
I don't
the-
think so, but that'd be
when
hilarious.
she drops
gets an
again,
upgrade.
it's done.
Well, but then here's the thing. What if Hormona's next? Does Hormona get to pull another lever?
Yes, and she'll get a second trip to Vegas. Yeah.
No, she doesn't. No,
No,
because
she
she's
gets an
already
upgrade,
engaged
I
the
think.
lever. She's already engaged the lever. And
I
now
know.
I'll be annoyed if she gets a second trip. I will.
I don't
will give
think-
her-
I'm sure they have an
we get a
answer
second
for
trip.
for
She
that
doesn't.
specifically.
For us.
But eventually it'll go away. We'll be down to top 6 or top 5, and they'll say, it's done now, and you just got to deal with whatever happens from here on out.
But past that.
The production value of the show and what they are giving me this season so far is not worth the awkwardness of the mentions. Every time it comes up, I think of I've been quoting 30 Rock on the show so much, but when Jack Donaghy tries to get them to do more product integration and he talks about positive mentions of products, aka Posmens, which I say all the time, I always talk about, and it's happening on the show constantly. They're just talking about Posmens, and what really drives me nuts is 30 Rock was amazing because they figured out a way to be self-referential about the fact that NBC was making them do product integration in a way that made fun of NBC, of their show, and then of NBC within their show, the NBC Universal Shineheart. They wrapped it all up. And that RuPaul is taking this so seriously rather than being like, and I know this is dumb, but we got to make money. So here's the stupid thing that we're doing this week. That she has decided to make the brand like, no, we're really serious about how great whatever the product is, rather than being like, isn't this funny that this is what we're doing?
Yeah, well, because when you're a whore, the dick in your mouth is the greatest thing that's ever been in your mouth in your entire motherfucking life. It's the world's
again,
greatest
I point to Liz Lemon, who, when she was a whore, she had jokes with the dick in her mouth.
Well, that's
Liz Lemon is on a heterosexual white show.
I was going to say Liz Lemon is a heterosexual white woman.
There are ways to do it that aren't. There are ways to do it that aren't necessarily biting the hand that feeds you, though. Either it feels like there isn't even any notice of the fact that and when you're in Vegas, just we all know why you're doing it, and you're kind of not. You're not pointing to the fact of why you're doing it, and it would be better if you did.
Yeah, like, I don't know, just from a woman who has, or a person who has insisted that the reason this is all happening is because she was so transgressive in the 80s and 90s and then brought subversive drag to the mainstream that she's completely unwilling to be subversive about this thing that I respect. It has to happen, but also, does it have to happen? Because what are we spending this money on? It's not going to making the show better. It maybe is going to making Untucked better, because Untucked actually is great this season. And I am so happy that we have stopped doing the tragic walk and pack of shame after the queen is eliminated, and they just do their little tag sign off. I hope that's for everybody. I hope it wasn't just for Lucky for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know. Like, the Michelle stunt has to have been expensive. Did they spend the Las Vegas money on that? Because a chocolate bar is basically free.
I actually think this is not like, I mean, when we looked into having a carnival wedding, like a dunk tank like this is like $2,000 to rent. This is nothing.
Yeah, this isn't, it's not connected to the floor. Like, this isn't that bad.
But so when you say, where does the money go? I think the money goes to the fact that we're hearing a whole lot fewer, they violated my rights. I think like the money is going to keeping the show alive by making up for the mistakes in the background. But I just want to make sure that we fly from Vegas to Canada. So I'm going to do a last call for thoughts on this episode. I just want to say, Lucky Stars, I'm going to miss you. I think you are super great. I really, really hate this makeup is the makeup you went out on. This is, this ain't no way for a good man to go down. Rich man can ride, and the hobo, he can drown. And I know that's just absolutely Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's. But until I am Bernie Taupin, I will forever love you, Lucky Stars. You brought artistry. You brought MoMA to the Met world. And I would have liked to have really gotten to see a whole lot more of you. But until then, I will just blame the fact that you and Arietti were both far too influenced by Sweet Tooth for this absurd nose that won't stop happening. And I'm going to miss you.
We love you, Lucky Stars. If you happen to see this, you are an absolutely brilliant icon. I feel so bad that Lucky looked defeated going into it, and that's not and also like truly,
well, now we know why.
Yes. It's also very hard to be, this is your dream, you want to do well, you want to win, to be told, okay, you could potentially be going home, and now you have to perform. People, the fact that any of these roles need to get into that mindset to dance, to perform, to fight, is a huge testament to their bravery to getting on stage and doing that. Yeah, and she'll be missed.
Also, Andrew said, bitch, I'm from Chicago. I think Naisha was from Chicago.
She hosts in Chicago, but she doesn't live in Chicago anymore. I had to look up. I'm gonna.
Okay, then TK, you sound off while he gets all JoJopedia about it.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a very odd season. I don't know what we're doing here, man. I don't hate it, but I don't know what we're doing here. I think Arietti is so beautiful.
I have come around on the Arietti train.
And you know what? I think I came down on her very hard. Susie out of drag and her runway, both I am now more charmed by.
Nice. She's basically what if Cuphead was a drag queen. I love it.
Yes, and I love that. I don't think it always looks good, and I also don't know that is a sustainable thing for the whole season, but I think you nailed the description. I think it can work as a brand. I'm not sure what you gotta. I need to see some other stuff. Still totally stan Lexi. Just really think she's the best, and I'm rooting for her. Apparently, because she is a 4,000-year-old Methuselah that is still like 10 years younger than I am.
They've been calling her the oldest bitch, and she's wearing a 90s baby t-shirt, and I just want to throw myself out a window.
And also, fantastic. Thank you guys, the producers, writers, editors, whoever, for not having the queens have to do too much work to pretend like they know who Sandra Bernhard is.
Oh, yes.
Loved you, Sandy.
Love you, Sandra Bernhard. I am 40 years old.
Best friend.
I know Sandra Bernhard very well. I love her very much, and I'm fully aware that anybody below the age of 32 probably less familiar, and certainly given how these girls have interacted with pop culture so far, fully do not believe that when this was announced they knew, and I thought they did a really good job of rolling through that.
When I was 12, she told me that I was a gay little thing and told me to never change, and I haven't. So
look at you now.
Look at me now. I got to see her. I saw her cabaret. Hot older boyfriend took me for my birthday last year, and we saw Sandra's cabaret. It was amazing. So good.
She's the best.
So good.
She really was such a huge chunk of 90s gay culture and 80s gay culture. Yeah, I just love her. Anyway,
speaking
Tori,
of 90s and 80s gay culture, Tori, as the gay culture of today.
I'm excited to see what's coming up. I still love my Susie Toot. I'm 50-50 on if I'm probably not going to continue to enjoy her Mona Lisa for much longer, but I have high hopes for more camp from other people. But this was a good episode, and while it's very sad to lose Lucky, I am excited to move this season along, please, because I at some point need a break from drag, but that won't be for another 15 weeks.
I do want the numbers to dwindle. I do want a girl to go home. Tori King speaks to the audience.
Yes.
There is no break whatsoever.
None.
If it weren't mean, I would love to suggest a broadcast about how regularly the first queen to go home should not have been the first queen to go home. And so it's a little flustering, but that's even why I always point to the scent challenge, because it just happens sometimes. Sometimes during the relay race you trip and it just wasn't your week. And I really, really rooted for Lucky, because Lucky gave really great energy, really earnest energy, really sold the "this is my dream" package, and hopefully we get to see more from Lucky Stars in the future. You will be missed, and as for everyone else, oh boy, we'll see how this season goes. It's gonna be very interesting.
Speaking of oh boy,
seeing how the season goes.
I really liked the top 4 in Canada. Real Canadian, very top 4, all drag race. But I really, number 1, can't believe Perla wasn't there. Number 2, can't believe Oh My God wasn't there. Number 3, don't understand how I didn't enjoy the last lip sync. Number 4, Minnie threw it, right? Somebody said to Minnie
I think Hollywood Jade didn't give her proper choreography for her comedy song.
Well, but I mean, also that's the worst verse of all time. Okay, do you guys remember when Solomon Rushdie wrote the satanic verses and had the fatwa put against him? This verse was worse.
The guy who told the woman to put the baby in too?
Fuck you, that's amazing. No, Padma Lakshmi's ex-husband. Oh, so but
Nick
speaking
Jonas?
of top chefs, I love where this is going. This is literally the most convoluted stream of consciousness since the Nile ended in my brain. But I really feel like the problem with this winner is something Jonah once said to me about this queen. She is so talented, but the producers did not do any work to make it look like she should be the winner until they decided to show us she should be the winner. But she didn't get the treatment of a winner throughout the season. They just kind of at the end said, quick stamp her the winner. And I don't know. I think she's too talented for the edit she got. I'm glad she won, but the edit was not her favor.
And again, this is where I'm like, these are this feels like a Kenneth Parcell production. Like it just feels like Canada's whole production team does things a little differently. Because she really does. When you look at it on paper, and especially given the fact that Virgo Queen's drag daughter was there, sort of supporting this idea that she is accomplished, a mother, and like you saw her being a supportive mother figure. It gave such Sasha Colby vibes on paper, but they did not edit this show the way that the season 15 editors edited Sasha's show, because it really does feel the whole time like, oh wow, you are watching the mother of mothers compete on this show, and it's so fantastic. And here, I don't know, it was just kind of like, yeah, don't worry, Virgo's incredible. Let's talk about how Michaela is having this incredible journey.
You are the smallest, littlest person who is ever little, and I am so nice to you and so kind, and you're so little. I swear, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen to this day.
I agree. I will admit, like, I haven't seen all of Canada's seasons yet. I think I'm still missing 1, maybe 2 of them. But I have always kind of felt that Canada's winners come plucked out of nowhere at the end. Like that it just doesn't feel like they know where they're going with it. And I kind of agree. Like, I just keep thinking to myself when everyone keeps talking about Sasha Colby, season 15 is so amazing to me because there's too many girls from Connecticut, Sugar and Spice. We had Mistress doing what Mistress does. We have Sasha Colby doing the Sasha Colby show. Like, we had the Lucy LaDuca thing going on. Like, there were so many things that we were all holding on to everything that, like, sometimes I'm just like, I honestly forget what season all the Connecticut girls were in, because I'm like, it can't be 15. We had 7 other things going on. And so I think, like, this season I think they wanted to probably edit it for Virgo because she wasn't given like a bad edit, but then there was just too much else excitement going on, and Canada doesn't know how to balance their meal.
Yes. Because they did do other stuff really well. They did, like I was talking about last week or the week before, all of the heartfelt moments, all of the, I mean, I learned on Canada, but I didn't really learn who the winner was. Hugely disappointing last challenge, not the fault of the girls. They were given these tracks and then had to write verses for them.
Give them at least 4 backup dancers, not just 2.
Was it 1 track?
It was 1 shitty track.
They all sang the same song?
No. Well, they might have been given the same bass track, and then they all got to kind of do what they wanted.
Yeah,
they might have been like minor tweaks here or there.
But I mean, it was the same construction. It was the same chord progression. It was the same sound fonts. It was the same design. It was the same beat.
That sort of makes sense. You have to even some playing field in there.
Yeah, I mean, I would have dropped it to a top 3 and then given them each really unique individual track. I don't know. There were options. These were not enjoyable to listen to. They were not memorable. These are not iTunes songs, whatever. I will say Minnie's was actually one that I found unlistenable to the point that I gave it as much time as physically I could stand to. And then I had to turn it. I had to fast forward through it.
It was precarious. I want to, before we talk about the performances, I want to quickly just talk about Virgo in the sense that we kind of clocked it from the first episode that the show is trying to be like, this show's going to end with Virgo versus Michaela. And it worked on UK 6, and that was one of the most recent seasons we just watched, where we kind of thought like, oh, it's going to be Lavoie versus Kyron. But the UK 6 felt like it was showcasing the other girls in a way of like, oh, is Relisa gonna like sneak up and take it from them? Is Lil gonna do that? Who's the other top?
Marmalade.
Marmalade. Oh my god, love my life, Marmalade. Is Marmalade gonna snatch it from them? with her amazing runway package that she made herself. That felt exciting enough, even though we kind of knew the idea of it. The season still felt exciting in that regard. Canada 5, I think, blew the load a little too early, prematurely, if you will, where we kind of knew it was going to be Virgo and Michaela, and then the show didn't really showcase Virgo a lot and really focused a lot on Michaela. And I felt like a lot of the other people felt a little more backgroundy, and it made the show just highlight like, oh, did you predetermine your winner? I don't think winners are specifically like predetermined, but I do think they will try to craft the narrative around like, all right, this is the person we want to give the win to. How do we highlight it the best? I don't know if Virgo got that, and I feel bad because I do think she's so talented as a performer, as a singer, as a person on stage, everything about that. She knows how to walk, she can model a look. I guess I just felt a way about the way she didn't feel confident in a comedy challenge and then kind of gave up a little. And that's where I maybe have reservations of like, oh, I'd rather you've tried. I'd rather you have swung and feel like, I don't know if I'm the funniest, but gone from there.
We make fun of the Sasha Colby, any Demi Lovato, California sobers, but like she really put in effort. She didn't
She's
go,
tried.
yeah.
And I wish this show did a better job at balancing the edit around the other interesting performers, because I think Minnie is interesting. I would team Helena until the very end. I really wanted her to win, even though I think she kind of got the denim edit where it's like, we're kind of going to edge you along and then we'll give you one at the finale, but then you can't lip sync. That's what happened with Denim. I'm sorry. Denim, who has the best voice in the entire world, who I love.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Denim's native language is vocal fry.
It is. I will never forget the tweet that she said where someone was like, where she's like, maybe his performance art just sound like annoying cigarettes. Truly, the funny, like, she ate. Sorry, we stand.
She ate those cigarettes.
She ate those cigarettes. And then we get into, I will say this, I am so thankful we didn't get the, what would you say to young child here? I hate those make me uncomfortable. It just feels like milking trauma in a way that doesn't feel good.
It'd be more fun if it was like a random child, like Jean-Benet Ramsey. Just ask Carmona Lisa.
But Canada has this problem where the queens are so amazing, but they don't know how to edit around them. And it just feels weird. Truthfully, I think actually the best season of Canada so far has been season 2, where it feels the most balanced, where you're between Pythia, Isis, who I love, and Kendall Jenner, and you're like, oh, any of them could win. Like it felt like a tighter race between them. This didn't feel like a race. This felt like somebody was at the finish line already, and we were just kind of watching people attempt at the race, even though we kind of knew who won. And I wish the show did better for these girls, for their country, for Virgo. She deserved a better edit.
Agreed. I also just want to say Helena's verse suffered from the thing I don't like, which is if you give them nothing too hard, it's nothing. This was just a little too spoken rap. This was just a little too 303 and not a whole performance. This was a little too flat. Minnie Wang's was like TK said, truly like painful, like actually really embarrassing. Like I'm a big fan of Minnie Wang's, and like Minnie, I'm not coming for you. I've got some really bad performances up there too online, and I'm here to stand by them, just like you stand by this. But like, it was too comedic. It was too silly.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was. You could have done Wangderful with a little bit more irony. There was no irony. This was just the joke, and that's not irony. Michaela's was a great verse if it wasn't so generic. Like I feel so bad, but like she did an amazing job aping a thing from every other artist. She just really copied a note here and there. But as a vocalist, Virgo, my love, I just want to sit you down and be like, here's 2 fewer miasma runs and that would have improved the performance because it was just a little bit too much.
Which she already did once before, and like, and that was, I mean, it was cute. It was the same thing. Like, I still would have given her that note the last time too, but she was talking that last time about how she was going to do that and like show that she had some vocal chops. And I kind of get it, but this is their third song. This is the third time this season that they've done a song. And in the case of Michaela and Virgo, they already did everything they came to do. Like, Michaela impressed in that first one. And everybody immediately was like, wow, you have so much presence. And Virgo also impressed. I mean, Virgo won. Oh God, Jaylene, I love you
Right.
So much. The unexpected star of this episode. Can we just take a moment?
Talk about the elephant in the room.
Can we talk about the elephant in the room? I look so beautiful.
I know. I love her so much.
What a me and normal moment.
I love Perla too. I really do. I did miss her, but I was
flight on bridge really fast. When
Yeah.
Virgo said that she was wearing a ball gown, no, that's not a ball gown. It is still one of the most beautiful dresses, and she looked absolutely stunning. She looked like a beautiful, beautiful Cinderella. And it's not a ball gown.
No.
Michaela Lee said wedding dress inspired, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give you that. I'll give it to you because you said inspired. That's not a ball gown.
And Michaela looked beautiful and did so well. She just, unfortunately, she did so well doing what so many girls have done so well at before that it was hard. Like, Shea Coulee can't stop releasing tracks that sound exactly like this that go nowhere. I'm sorry, but it being a minute of a finale episode isn't going to make it do any better.
Well, and it's been 2 years, right? Michaela's been doing drag for 2 years. That was the season that she was almost three. Yeah. That's top 2 of the seasons. A pretty amazing place to be for 3 years doing this. But her vibe is the most amazing person I know who is still young and still has so much more time to figure themselves out. Where, again, Virgo, like, feels like an accomplished mother to children who has experience and has kind of a plan and has worked her way up the ladder to be here. It felt right. It, to me, like, I bought in when they told me episode 1 that Virgo was the best and was probably going to win this thing. I was sold. Okay, sure. They didn't entertain me then with the rest of the show based on that premise, but I did the whole time believe that Virgo was going to win and should win. And I didn't hate that Michaela was the other front runner. I maybe could have changed my mind about all that if they had divvied up the wins throughout the season differently. And I don't agree with all of the wins. I don't know. I wish we'd shaken things up a little bit this season, but incredible top 2. I love both of these queens so much. When we think about where Jimbo is, compared to where Jimbo was on his seat. And like, we saw Jimbo here, but Jimbo just took drag culture by storm, took drag race culture by storm, took the show by storm, eventually won. Gave kind of a disappointing score, but whatever. But like,
you dirty
Jimbo,
old man.
Jimbo is iconic. And I think about where Michaela is going to be in 5 years, even 3 more years from now. I have no worries at all about Michaela Couture's journey and how cool it's going to be and what an icon she's going to be. And I just, unfortunately, could not have seen it going to Minnie. Something just would never have sat right with me about that. And I don't think I would have wanted her to win because I just don't think that she did that great, but I am in love with how my opinion of Helena Poison changed throughout the season and how I went from really, really not liking her to just thinking she was absolutely a favorite, not necessarily a contender to win, but just a queen that charmed me in so many ways and really made me root for her.
Which is so wild because I think she has the best track record of everybody there. She did well in so many challenges.
Yeah.
Eventually things will be lost to the time of specifics, like pulling from my memory, but like her lip sync against Jaylene is still, like, I think one of the most dominant performances. And Jaylene did amazing, but like the way Helena performed, I'm so shocked the show didn't see her as a potential candidate from that lip sync alone. It felt so weird to me. I feel bad because it feels like the show wasn't as vested in Helena, but Helena was doing well.
Yeah.
Well, I actually love
Helena.
perfect Tori.
Helena was doing really well. I thought her song was the best of our four. I liked it the
Yeah.
most. I liked the song
I agree
the
with
most.
that.
I liked the performance the most. I think she did absolutely fantastic. I knew she wasn't going to win, but seeing Minnie's performance was difficult to get through. I was charmed by the lyrics, not by much else. And I think she really gave it her all. And that's all we need from Minnie. And I'm really happy for her. I thought Michaela's was fine. I wasn't in love with it. I think I clocked that she was super nervous and got taken out of it pretty quickly, but I think she recovered towards the end. But I don't think it was so great to get the enthusiasm that the judges gave her. And Virgo's was very clean, very good. Very good. It just didn't excite me. I was excited during Helena's. I was like, oh, I might download this song. Excited.
I love that. And I love the different experiences we're having. You know, I feel like I've sound off. I feel like the top row has as well. But Kevo, I would love for you to close out our Canada coverage. Trying to give it a fake French drag name.
I love that.
But tell me, what are your closing thoughts before we start to wrap this episode up? And Tori and I have a little thing we're gonna at you guys with. But
You know, I think it's one of those things where if the finale and the winner is so telegraphed and so told to you at the beginning of the season, it's really just a matter of whether or not the season itself is entertaining. And I think this one overall was, and I don't feel like the win was a disappointment. I don't feel like the top four overall was a disappointment. I loved what everyone brought to this. I love that especially two of the queens with special backstories were ones that made it to the top four with Minnie and Michaela. I love that Jaylene was Miss Congeniality. When they were all guessing, I was also like, oh, I wonder who. And then when they said Jaylene, I was like, duh. Duh. So that was great. She was great. It was a fun season, but I think no matter what, it is hard to shake the dissonance of the fact that we're now 3 weeks into the main season. So in 2 weeks, I don't know that I'm even going to remember anyone's singles because I'm focusing on a new season already. And, Tori joked earlier, she needs a break from this. No, it never ends. It never ends. So, the overlap can be a lot sometimes. But, onward and upward. And we're enjoying what?
I was just going to say, as Plain Jane said, onwards and upwards, sisters.
Yep. Kudos. Thank you for crowning. And let's get this next season a cooking.
well,
Splash.
and speaking of the next season,
That's two Virgo winners in a row. Lazy Susan was a Virgo too.
Oh, interesting that you're talking about all these queens and their statistics.
When so Tori, we're finally gonna do it. We're gonna launch it, and it's happening. I'm so excited. We're gonna launch our little fantasy drag league, and so here's what we're doing. Tori has gone to great lengths to make my dreams possible. Tori's a genius. So what we've done is we've figured out a point value for standings. And then we've divided the types of challenges into categories. Tori, what are those categories again?
Charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
And
Genius.
Genius. I can't wait for somebody to have to refer to that score. But
and lip sync.
Oh yes, and so then there's lip syncing. But Jonah, what is one of your favorite pastimes with your friends?
There it is.
What do you play with your friends?
Oh, I'm a big old D&D and tabletop nerd.
So I said, how can we bring my and Tori's love of statistics, Jonah's love of tabletop games, our shared love of Drag Race across the board, and make it really, really torturous so that KEVO has to produce it because he won't play and TK puts up with it. How can I make this happen? And I came up with a game and I brought it to Tori and she said, that's unplayable. Let's fix it. And that's what we did. And so now we have a draft coming up. Very exciting. Everybody's getting points. And now I want to be clear. There are going to be some 1-point queens. At one point, there were some negative 2-point queens, but there are going to be some 1-point queen. We fixed that.
Smoothed out the map.
The 1 point has nothing to do with the queen's quality, ability, character, content, magic, sharp wit. It's what? Nerve stat. None of those things. They only have to do with their direct performance on le show. So there's more points if you did an all-stars, and then there's challenges. There's many challenges, and there's drama bombs, and this is going to be quite a fun game for everybody to play. We had to fix some scoring. There was a few few funny things, but we tightened it up, cleaned it out, got it all good.
It's one of those things that we have found when we talk about drag queens and we judge them from our little couches, that it's difficult to quantify what makes a good drag queen. And so finding the right levels to settle things at where it would make sense why, say, Jinx, Queen of All Queens, isn't in the top 10. Why is that? Kind of thing. And there's some things like my beloved Bianca Del Rio probably isn't going to get played because she has a very low point value and it's not worth it. So I'm excited to see what happens because I think it'll be fun, and I think folks will get a hoot out of playing along because I think we will have some good-natured razzing to do.
Absolutely. And I mean, the razzing's going to be about each other. You know me, I am the world's best target. I just walk around like a Toy Story Midway Mania bullseye, and it's so much fun. So it's going to be...
You're so big and handsome, it's hard not to hit on you.
Yeah. And I'm preternaturally competitive when there's no stakes. So I'm going to be a nightmare.
And I mean, then TK and Jonah haven't weighed in, so it's going to be great. And I can't wait.
They're so scared.
But...
Oh, you froze.
Oh, no.
You froze.
Well, it's all very exciting. We will be going, bringing it to you.
Oh, you're back.
Tori, that was fast moving. I'm quite grateful. Good job. Just don't do doubles 3 times, you'll go to jail. Jonah, where can everybody find you?
You could find me talking about how I think everybody on the Canadian finale looked absolutely stunning. So props to all you divas. You all look great in your coronation eleganza. And me complimenting the girls more all over social media at places at Peak Giona.
Amazing. Tori, my draft queen. Where can everybody find you if they want to play along with the game?
You can find me online at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I.
Oh, and I love that. But speaking of people I love, Kevi with a Y. KEVO, our producer extraordinaire who made these amazing backgrounds. You put so much work in with Jonah on the screenshots and getting the show so pretty. And I'm so grateful. Where can everybody find you if they want to check out your handsome mug?
You can find me on the socials at KEVO Really. That's KEVOREALLY.
And TK, could not be more excited to do this show with you. I love seeing your beautiful pink. Is that like what is it? That's like a little shawl, like a little lingerie piece in the background, because that's clearly where you are right now. And so I love your makeup table. Your space looks incredible. And if everybody wants to check you out at that makeup table, where can everybody find you?
It's going to be at TK Accidental.
And you guys know you can always find me at NICO Action, NICOACTION. You guys can check out my music at NICO Action Music, NICOACTIONMUSIC. You guys can check out all of the different feeds of this show, like HTML, Husbands Talking More or Less, X is for Podcast, and X is for Show, on all the matching social medias that fit those handles. But then there's 3 things you guys can do for us. Subscribe, comment, and like. Ooh, love it. But then 3 things you guys can do for yourselves. Number 1, I want you guys to stay safe. It's a crazy world out there, and we're getting like an actual cold cyclone bomb or something where we're going to be is going to be like 5 degrees for a couple of days. Sucks. Stay warm. Number 2, please be brave. We make comments, and I mean, positive comments. But we have critique for these girls, but it's only because they're so fucking brave. They're out there making art that inspires, that makes me want to be a better artist. That's why I got up there and did my drag king shit, and it makes me so excited. But then number 3, please evolve daily, because who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, amazing. But who you are tomorrow, that is the full-on motherfucking dream, and we cannot wait until we get to be there. So do us a favor, and just like Hormona Lisa, spare us the Bible verses unless we ask, and we'll see you.